All right, well, you know, some of you know this, some of you don't, but I'm like a chess nerd and I enjoy playing the game. I'm terrible. I'm around to 1250 ELO and I go from 1350 to 1200 and play too many games and I'm not getting any better. But I'm a big fan of Magnus Carlsen and watching him play. And you know what I think is really interesting about him is his memory recall. I watched this one video with him where like he saw a board, they showed him a board and they're like, what game is that from? He's like, that was the 1976 da-da-da-da-da. Like, I'm like, dude, that's insane. So this is a sharp guy we're talking about, and he's dabbled in a little bit of poker. So Magnus Carlsen found himself in the Norwegian World Championship or something like that, playing in a tournament, getting pretty deep. And this was on TV, so we had the luxury of taking a look at one of these hands that he played, and I figured, why not do a breakdown? Like, I would be embarrassed if he did a breakdown of any of my chess games. He'd be like, wow, you are the biggest fish ever. You're dumb as dirt. But hopefully, you know, I still know more about poker than he does for now, right? But in this case, I want to actually talk about a hand that he played that's quite impressive across the board. You know, I really like it. Okay, so he's in a tournament with blinds of 2,500, 5,000, and a 5,000 big blind ante. He's sitting on 300K, right? Which seems pretty decent, right? He's got like 60 bigs or something like that.
Ja, det vel ikke fullt 2 måneder siden heller, eller jeg husker ikke helt, jeg var litt opptatt akkurat i den perioden, men det vel et par måneder siden. Ja. Ja. Magnus Carlsen har pocket S. Åpner til 11 000, Sjøstrøm syner på knappen med 5-4 sut, Frigård syner med pocket 5 i lilleblind, og Dagslott får en veldig god pris i storeblind her, og bare ligger på 6 000 til, inn i 43 000, og da det så gode odds at så frem du har, ja, selv om du...
He raises to 11,000 from the hijack with the ace of clubs, ace of hearts. Like it, 2.2x in a tournament, everything approved so far. He gets called from the button with 4-5 of diamonds, a little loosey-goosey, but okay. Then the small blind calls with 5s and the big blind calls with the Jack-7 offsuit. So I'm okay with all that so far, right? You know, people look at Jack-7 offsuit, that's pretty shitty hand. Yeah, but there's 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, and you're getting like a ridiculously good price with a very bad hand to maybe catch lightning in a bottle. But you also have to think about it with the Jack-7, you know, there's reverse implied odds here too. Like if you flop a Jack and, you know, you're outkicked and stuff like that, because the 2 calling ranges are going to be pretty heavy on like Jack-10, Jack-Queen, Jack-King suited type stuff. So anyway, we're now here to talk about Dog Slot or Frigard or Sogstrom or whatever. We're talking Magnus Carlsen, and he's the one with the aces, 4-way action, 50,000 in this pot.
Nesten ikke har skjetonger, så skal du syne uansett. Og her flopper han jo toppar også. Nei, han ikke best akkurat nå, for Carlsen har jo pocket S, men Dagslott har også et flushdrag som riktig nok ikke høyt, men det det eneste flushdraget der. Ingen av de andre har spar på hånda. Litt tricky for Carlsen å manøvrere noe mot 3 spillere, men han teller opp et C-bet. Har det 31 000? Nei, 21 000. Det holder til å bli kvitt 2 av motspillerne med Dagslott, med toppar og et flushdrag som man tenker kanskje kan være godt. Det vet jo vi at det hvis han fyller. Ser jo at han faktisk knepen favoritt til å vinne her hvis det kommer seg til showdown. Han syner 21 000.
And here comes the flop. It's Jack-8, 3 of spades. That's not the flop you want to see 4 ways when you have aces with no ace of spades. It's not ideal, right? For Dog Slot, he's got to like this flop. He's got the Jack, right, for top pair, and he's also got, just in case, the 7 of spades. So against aces right here, he's doing fine. Like if it was just heads up, he's got, you know, a Jack, a 7, or a spade to hit against, you know, the aces without the spade. So he's got to like his hand. Anyway, checks to Magnus, and Magnus has a decision to make here, 4-way, as far as, A, do I want to bet this flop, and B, if I do, what kind of sizing choices do I want to use? Typically on monotone boards, that means like 3 flush, okay? Sizes that solvers want are smaller. You don't typically want to go too big in these spots because people do play a high percentage. Like all the callers are more likely to have suited combos than you are to open, right? So for example, let's say a hand like King 10 off, right? You'll open the King 10 off, but the callers probably don't call with that. They call with the King 10 suited though. So what ends up happening is monotone boards like this are typically ones that you want to tread carefully. He chooses an interesting size. He bets 21,000, which is about 40% pot. It's sort of an in-betweensy size, right? Like the small size typically here is like quarter pot, big size like 2/3. He kind of is like, yeah, I'm sort of in the middle. And he's got a hand that is, yeah, sort of in the middle, right? It's like, I have a good hand, but I'm also scared, So I understand what the size is trying to accomplish. He doesn't want to make it too small and give everybody a really cheap draw. Get it? But then he also doesn't want to go too big and commit himself to the hand where, he's in trouble. So that's probably where he gets, the size from in terms of, I'm just guessing what he's thinking, which is probably a mistake since this guy thinks on like crazy kooky level. But anyway, I don't mind it. It's fine. Everybody folds except Dogslot, who, of course, has an easy slam dunk call with the jack, with the spade, all good. Now there's 90,000 in the pot. Okay?
Og så kommer det spar på turn. Carlsen drar dødt her nå. Dagslott sjekker.
Om Carlsen skal vinne denne hånda, så er han nødt til å få Dagslott til å kaste seg. Det er på ingen måte noe fest for Dagslott dette her da.
30 000 fra Carlsen. Og nå må Dagslott begynne å vurdere, er flushen min god? Carlsen har jo spilt opp fra hijack, kan godt ha en hånd som inneholder S, konger, damer, knekte lite sannsynlig, og da er jo sparknekten borte der.
Turn is the 5 of spades. Dogslot cannot lose this pot. There's no way he can lose this pot. He has it locked up. You see the 100% check mark? Boom. Sold. Magnus is dead. Magnus cannot win. Or can he? Right? Turns a 5 of spades. Checked over to Magnus. Now it's decision time for Magnus. Okay? He probably doesn't have the best hand now with 4 spades. Right? He does beat a jack without a spade, and that's about it. But there's a very decent chance that his opponent has the ace of spades. Or not the ace of spades, but ace spade. Right? Remember we talk about this a lot in terms of like range advantage. Who in this pot is more likely to have the key card, which is the ace of spades? Is it Magnus or is it Dogslot? Right? Dogslot defended in the big blind against 3 people. He's going to do that with what kind of range? Wide, right? Magnus's opening range is going to be very ace heavy, right? So Magnus, absolutely, if you think about the 2 ranges, how they compare, Magnus has the best range by a lot, right? So he decides, you know what? Forget it. I don't care that I, don't have a spade and I know that my aces are probably no good. I'm going to turn it into a bluff. And I'm going to use my range advantage and do so. So what sizing makes sense here? You don't need to go big. It's a 4 flush board. You're not really protecting against anything. What, 2 pairs, sets? 1/3 pot I really like here from Magnus. Very good sizing on this turn card. And now Dogslot calls. Okay.
Til og med tier. Kommer det dame på river. Skal Carlsen fyre en kule til? Jeg tror ikke Dagslott. Ja, kanskje han kunne lagt inn et blokkbett i front her for å slippe å syne etter at han hadde sjekket. Det ville vært en mulighet å lagt inn et blokkbett. Og se her, Dagslott, han gjør nettopp det. Dette er, hvor mye er det? 30 000, ja. Det er, hvis det for eksempel motspillere hadde hatt 10 høy street, 9 høy street, sånne ting, så vil jo dette fungert i stedet for å måtte stå overfor et bud som var større. Her kontrollerer han budstørrelsen, og her er jo til og med som vi ser for verdi.
Here's where I think things really get interesting. Dogslot on this river, Queen of Clubs, decides to bet 30,000. No. Be careful, ladies and gentlemen, with these blocker bets, okay? Against really good players in certain spots, you make these little blocker bets because why? A, you're afraid that he would bet more and you'd have like a tough decision, right? But the problem is you're probably not balanced here. You don't have enough ace of spade in your range, in this case, to be able to get away with this, right? So Magnus, now he's facing a bet. He knows he doesn't have the best hand. Like there's no hand in the world that Dogslot calls turn with that Magnus is ahead of. And Magnus knows this. He knows aces are no good here, for sure. But he asks himself the question, why would Dogslot just check call small, and then lead really small? Wouldn't he, with the nuts, want to like just sort of check, hope I bet, and then put in the raise? it's very suspicious, right? And simply from a range advantage perspective, even after the block bet, right? Which looks like, what does the block bet look like to you? I don't know, 10 of spades, the queen of spades, the 9 of spades. One of those where like, I want to extract a little bit of value. I want to stop you from raising me because you won't, because you don't have the guts to do it and you'll just call me. So for example, if Magnus here had the 10 of spades, right? And bet, which is very unlikely because he shouldn't be betting the turn with. But if let's say he did, you bet a little bit with that 7 of spades, you protect yourself against maybe a bigger bet from Magnus, except Magnus is not going to bet a 10 of spades on the river. Pretty much on this river, if check to, the only hand that Magnus is going to bet is the king of spades or the ace of spades as value. That's it, right? And then bluffs. But he doesn't have a lot of bluffs. He bet 4 ways. He bet into a 4-way pot after being the opener. So he's going to have a strong hand. He's going to be very ace of spades, king of spades heavy, right, in his range. So I really don't like the lead from dog slot. But having said that, this is going to work against 99% of people. They'll just be like, whatever, he caught me, I fold. But not Magnus Carlsen, who despite poker not being his go-to game, still thinks about it on a very high level. And I believe that he really did deduce here that he has range advantage, he can represent the nuts, and my opponent can only call with the ace of spades. He will fold the king of spades, the jack of spades, the 10, any other smaller spades, because it's very reasonable for me to have the ace of spades and not so much for him.
Så der det ganske mange fordeler med å gjøre det han gjør akkurat her. Han ikke helt komfortabel. Skal Carlsen komme seg av her? Nei, det skal han ikke. Han går over til 100 000, og nå blir det fryktelig vanskelig for Dagslott. Magnus Carlsen bløffer. Han vet nok at... Og han får Dagslott til å kaste flushen!
Sjelden man gjør den her om til en bløff. Bra bløff.
So Magnus Carlsen pulls off the epic bluff, raises it to 100. Again, you don't have to make it that big, right? 30 to 100, that's a really good size. It's a good risk. It's a good, there's 150 in the pot before the 30, right? So there's 180. He's risking 100 to win 180 to get this guy to fold, or to also make the equation of like, is he going to have the ace of spades more often than like 30%? Probably not. So this is a really well calculated play from Magnus Carlsen. I'm not surprised that he sort of has a natural ability to pull off a bluff like this, but I'm also very impressed. It's always interesting when you see, two worlds collide. And obviously chess is a very different game than poker in that, there's really no luck. I mean, there is a little bit, I guess, at the super duper duper highest levels when there's moves that are slightly better. But one of the things that's interesting about both games in 2022 is with chess, you have chess solvers. You have stockfish and you have all these things that you can input a situation and it tells you what the best possible play is. And we have that for poker too now, which is interesting because I wonder how many people from the chess world will now look at that and go, that's an interesting way to learn. I will tell you this though, as a poker player, as a chess player, I've always found it's really, really fun when you suck and then you're starting to get better because you just learn so many new things all the time. Like I remember with chess, I'm like, aha, a fork, how cool, right? And then you get these principles that are very, pretty easy. And then you get to like a higher level and it gets very, very difficult at the highest levels. It can be like laborious. It can be like too much work. And I think that's why once some people get up there, they have to ask the question, am I willing to do this 12 hours a day and study this one specific spot, on move 37 in a chess game, or this specific sizing on the turn of what my range should look like and what percentage of the time I should be 3-betting queen 4 suited and stuff like that. If you're Phil Hellmuth 100%, everybody else fold the queen 4, just for the record. But anyway, hats off to Magnus Carlsen. Really well played. It's great for poker to see him play. I've never met the guy, but just want to say I'm a big fan. I do watch a lot of chess videos and some recaps. I watch, of course, Gotham Chess, who does great recaps. If you haven't seen that, his channel, I don't know, put a link to his channel because he does really good chess recaps. Also, Chess Vibes, I like him. He's really good. I learned some stuff from YouTube. So I do these videos for y'all on poker, but I appreciate all the guys out there who put out the chess content to teach dummies like me not to just hang my queen and say, here you go, have breakfast with my queen. All right, people. Peace.